Hello, guys. Welcome to another episode of the Commerce Lab by Comsi, the place of everything related to Amazon FBA and e-commerce. My name is Vincenzo Toscano, founder and CEO of Ecomsi, and today we bring you a very special guest. His name is Ben Fo, and he's the co-founder of Advon E-commerce and founder of Maverick. And today we're going to be touching very interesting topics, mainly around everything that has to do with attribution and how we can actually use that to scale your Amazon business. I think that's a very interesting topic that everybody's talking about, bringing traffic from outside of Amazon. We know how competitive Amazon itself is getting, and we need to find these solutions to basically thrive and keep scaling those brands forward. So, Ben, it's a pleasure to have you here with us today. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great, Vincenzo. So happy to be here, and thank you so much for letting me be part of the community.
It's a pleasure. I think I have seen what you guys have been doing with both of your companies. I think the software solutions and the strategies you implement in the Amazon space, they are very revolutionary, as they call them. And I think it's a pleasure for sure. And I think you're gonna add for sure a lot of value, especially as I mentioned around everything that has to do with external traffic, which we know each day is becoming much more important to be able to thrive in the Amazon space. Now, before I jump into everything that's to do with strategies, all of that that people is what is waiting for, I usually like to use the initial minutes of the episode, to give my guests an opportunity to introduce themselves, tell us a little bit about how you even came up around working the e-commerce space and what made you basically create these two amazing companies you have right now. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks so much, Vincenzo. I think it is helpful to have a little bit of context. So, in my case, I did undergraduate at West Point, served in the U.S. Army, did a stint at banking at UBS, Tesla Motors, was at Harvard Business School, and that at Harvard Business School is where I met my eventual co-founder of Best Reviews. I did a short stint at LinkedIn, which was wonderful, and then we were, scaling Best Reviews, and that we technically co-founded in 2014. Grew that by 2017. We were actually the largest independent player in the entire Amazon affiliate ecosystem in the U.S. market. So, and then we sold that to Tribune Publishing in 2018, and then in 2019, I moved to an advisory role there and started building what's now known as Advon Commerce. To your
Mhm.
point, and then just recently, we've launched our latest endeavor, Maverick X, and I think the one point I would add is each one kind of connects, right? If not for my experiences at LinkedIn, Tesla, and business school, I don't think we would have been able to co-found and succeed at Best Reviews. At Best Reviews, we got really familiar with paid traffic, so Google and external
Mhm.
traffic to, in many cases, Best Reviews, and then sending it to Amazon, driving over a billion in Amazon sales over
Wow.
my tenure there. In the more recent businesses, it's been a lot more thinking about how do we take these lessons from Best Reviews and so forth and apply them in different publisher scenarios. And now
Mhm.
with Maverick X, it's taking all those learnings and thinking about, to your point, how do I help a brand or manufacturer get high quality, high intent external traffic to their PDP or storefront and see it convert well and track that so you can understand the return on ad spend or ACOS.
That's awesome. Thank you very much for the introduction. Yeah, I mean, I love your background. I mean, you've been coming a long way now in terms of everything you've been achieving. So congrats on that. And I think yes, everything that's to external traffic. Then I mean, we know it's becoming so important. And I feel at the same time there is a lot of noise in the space. Like you really need to understand, as you mentioned, how to find the quality of this traffic, because I feel like anybody could find the traffic. The thing is, what is the point of finding that traffic if you can actually not track the traffic, understand how that actually is bringing value to your business and making sure that those traffics coming to your listings actually converting into sales. So maybe let's start with that. Maybe actually before we jump into that, I want to explain what is attribution because sometimes people don't even understand what is attribution about and what is this new Amazon attribution is about. So if you can give a little of a context and what is the power behind Amazon attribution right now. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really important point, Vincenzo. So the simplest way to think about it is Amazon attribution is really a way for Amazon to help brands and manufacturers better track and analyze traffic they drive from any source outside Amazon into Amazon. So let's just give a couple of hypotheticals. If I'm a brand and you and I own it together, Vincenzo, we may have a big email list.
Mhm.
Well, if we send a bunch of traffic from our email list to our Amazon product detail page, in the past, we would have had no way to easily understand how many people actually click to the Amazon product detail page or how many convert from that particular list send.
Yeah.
With Amazon attribution, we can put Amazon attribution tracking parameters on the links, and then we can understand, okay, we sent to 10,000 people, we had 1,000 people click to our Amazon PDP, and we had 100 of those convert on the Amazon PDP and purchase the product. Okay, if it's $10 per purchase, you do the math, we made $1,000 in sales from this email send. And you can kind of grasp intuitively why this matters. Suddenly, I can now understand if I'm spending $1,000 to get traffic from outside Amazon to my PDP, I know how much I'm actually making. The other point worth noting, and I think you alluded to this, there's some variance, but broadly speaking, for third-party sellers, there's a 10% or roughly 10% rebate that Amazon offers that a lot of people aren't fully aware of. And so, again, if you've driven those $1,000 in sales, hypothetically, as we talked about, you may well be eligible for up to $100 rebate from Amazon within the attribution program.
Yeah, which is basically free money. Why not, right? That's amazing.
Exactly.
Good. So now this attribution, just for also people clarify about how somebody with a traditional Seller Center account would go about this. Is this an option they can set up within their account? Do you need to work with specific partners in the Amazon space to help you with that? Just to give a bit of context, how would somebody go about and do the attribution side of things?
Yeah, that's a great question, Vincenzo. I mean, from all experiences we've had, and from our own understanding as well, it's fairly user friendly. Unlike
Hmm.
some features and tooling, I don't think there's many people who won't be capable of setting it up themselves and running tests against it. I think where it becomes more challenging to be self-serve is if you want to use it in conjunction with paid Facebook or
I know.
paid Google or paid Bing, because where there's not as much ease or existing kind of software flows, I guess, would be closing that loop and being able to
Hmm.
understand, okay,
Track it.
which
Yeah.
exactly which ad campaigns on which platform at which time actually drove these sales, and there's ways to connect that, but I think it's a little bit less intuitive and less simple than merely setting it up is.
Great. Now, when we talk about Amazon attribution, and I bet you see this a lot with your companies that you're working on in this space, what would you say is the number one thing people usually test when testing external traffic? Will you say it's paid advertising? Will you say it's blogging? Will you say it's publishing? What is the first thing you would advise to like test the waters with this kind of tool when bringing traffic?
Yeah, it's a great question, which is, I mean, I think if you have, if you have your own traffic, to your
Mm-hmm.
point, maybe you have a strong blog or a really large email list. I think doing an initial test with that is great because think about it, you don't have much of a cost in the
Yeah.
test, and you can understand first and foremost, are you recording clicks? It's always where
Yeah.
we start with any test is
Yeah.
are
I
clicks
know.
going through? And then the second thing would be, are you getting purchases recorded?
Yeah.
Because the last thing you want is to go spend $1,000 on a paid test
Mm,
when for some reason either your clicks or sales aren't getting properly attributed or reported. So that I would always start with free traffic if you can. If you can't start with free traffic, I would start with very cheap traffic to validate clicks. And then once you validate clicks, you can go to more high intent, higher cost traffic to work on sales.
very good advice. Awesome. So I think a lot of people will say yes. I mean, that's definitely a great strategy when it comes to getting started. But I would say most people will get stuck is actually on the step of choosing how to filter the right sources, right? Because I mean, when it comes to finding, as we're mentioning, a very low cost sources and cheap sources, then you can end up falling into the trap of paying to these services that put you in dozens of blogs that have no relevancy to your product or things like that, and then you end up just bringing very bad quality traffic to your listing, would then start having like a snowball effect on your listing, like your conversions start going down, then you start seeing your attribution recording very bad data for your listing, and for sure that also is going to affect your overall history performance of your product on Amazon. So when it comes to understanding how you can find the right audiences and sources, what is actually the thing you would advise? So if you want, actually, we could even tie this to your companies. How you guys make sure you find the right audiences for your clients? Yeah.
It's an incredibly important and good point,
Yeah.
Vincenzo. And we think of it on really two different levels. One would be um, what works in Amazon, either organic search or paid
Mhm.
search. Always start with what already works, right? That's like this guy Charlie Munger is Warren
Yeah.
Buffett's business partner, Berkshire Hathaway. He always says things like, "Hey, figure out what works and keep doing it."
Yeah.
Part of any good attribution strategy and paid search strategy off Amazon is an extension of what already works on Amazon. So if you know, hey, we rank, let's just say, for instance, you and I have a dog bowl company.
Yeah.
If we rank for the term dog bowl and plastic dog bowl and these terms on Amazon organically, page one,
Mhm.
we run paid search with a pretty good ACOS, page one on dog bowl. Well, guess what?
Mhm.
The first place I'd recommend starting would probably, assuming there's volume, which in this case there is on Google or Bing, I would go to Google or Bing and start with dog bowl as a search
Mhm.
term, or think about going after users and consumers that are dog owners if you're looking at paid Facebook, because you already know, hey, these people looking for dog bowls tend to engage with and convert on our PDP. So I think then you can drastically de-risk, to your point, the chances of putting dollars to work to get low quality traffic that doesn't convert, that just has a death spiral for your for your product. So that's kind of where we would start is, hey, what's already working and what are the analogous plays on these other platforms, whether it be a search platform or another. The other way to think about it is, in our case, with our team at least, we're fortunate enough to have done a lot of work in paid search. So we might even know, okay, dog bowl is the term on Amazon, but there's these 4 or 5 other terms that might
Mhm.
make sense on Google. One might be dog bowl reviews or
Mhm.
best dog bowls, because those are searches that users use on a Google platform where they're doing a different phase of research than they do on an Amazon or on a Facebook. And so there's this um, way of bringing over what you know, or taking what data you have, working with an expert or someone who's got a lot of expertise, and they bring that lens to think about what might work on a different platform.
Very interesting. Very interesting. I think, yeah, when it comes to finding the right keywords, especially not just keywords, like audiences when bringing this traffic is super important. And I think at the same time, I feel it's also very tied to the type of product you sell, because I'm assuming now, and actually, this is just going to be a question for you, that most like you could also actually find some products that could end up not working when it comes to bringing external traffic to Amazon, maybe because specific type of audiences that just don't work when you bring them to Amazon, or just the nature of the product itself. So have you found that doing this external traffic strategy do work more like with trendy products and more impulse buy products, or you could also do it with products that are very high end pricing, like $100 or more? So what you have found, basically, yeah.
That's a really good question, Vincenzo. We don't get asked enough, so we volunteer this information typically. Where we found there's two pockets that are really tricky. One is, if you think of whether you're on a Facebook or a Google, those users are oftentimes making somewhat considered purchases. Those searches are around doing research or what have you. The really, really low price point areas, there's not as much activity, not as much
Hmm.
considered purchase necessarily. So
Okay.
that's a harder place to engage and win. So for instance, I think the rule of thumb we've seen and heard of very few people, if your product sells for below like $10, $15 USD,
Mm.
215 US dollars. That's a really tricky place
Yeah.
to
It's
see.
more an impulse buy. You're not gonna research about that. Yeah.
Exactly. Or it might be a consumer staple and you're just gonna, it's toilet paper or batteries.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's there's not necessarily the same buyer's journey. On the really, really pricey side, multi-thousand dollars, we've actually still seen it work, but you have to be real strategic with the
Mm-hmm.
keywords you're going after, the device, mobile versus desktop, the
Interesting.
time
Yeah.
of day. So a lot of users still won't make as many major purchases on a mobile device. So if you're thinking about $1,000 rowing machine, you're going to think differently about your mobile to desktop bidding strategy and what those ratios might look like, and even the landing page experience and flows. So there's nuance with that side. The other place is when it's a very, very commoditized vertical.
Mm,
So for instance, there's certain places where there's literally like hundreds of products and no real distinguished brand.
yeah.
That can be tricky unless you have one of two things: really competitive price or a really deep reviews mode.
Yeah.
So it could be
Like
something
phone
where there's
cases, it will be difficult to compete on phone cases, for example. Yeah.
exactly, but if you've got a good price and like
Yeah.
most products have 500 reviews, but you've got
Mm,
3,000,
yeah.
well, guess what? That if either of those two, either a whole lot of reviews, which signals to consumers that it's a credible product, as long as it's above probably a 4-star rating, or maybe it's a really affordable price, those could be places you could still have success.
Mm, okay. And actually, just quickly going back to your point about the device, that's actually something a lot of people don't think about because even myself, when I'm buying things that over $1,000 mark, I will never buy that on a phone because I just don't feel comfortable making such a big purchase on my phone. I will just go to my laptop and make sure I read everything careful and make the purchase. So that's a very important point to consider when you're selling more high-end pricing things. Now, everything sounds amazing. I mean, everybody most likely they're really strategizing how they should be doing things and all of that. But some people might just say, you know what, it might be too complex. I don't have the experience. I don't really know how to even get started. So I think that's where your companies will come into play here and help with the whole journey, right?
Exactly, Vincenzo. And when we started out, it was exactly for that reason, just hearing from our customers, hey, we want to do more with Amazon attribution. We want to do more with paid search on Google and Bing, but we don't have in-house resources that we can dedicate, train up, and pay, frankly, to build out that software and then own, manage, and maintain the ongoing optimizations, because I think everyone can broadly agree. I bet there's probably not a person out there who's doing a lot of successful things on Amazon that doesn't manage, adjust, and review their paid search efforts on Amazon almost
Yeah,
every day.
for sure.
It's a daily process. And if you think you're going to have software that's going to make it become completely automated, I don't
No.
think so. Even the best software is going to require human intervention. And so I think what we've tried to come at it as, hey, there's a lot of things we can automate and we can build a lot of good software, dashboarding, analytics, infrastructure, but there's still going to be a human in there engaged with these ad accounts every single day, because that's how we're going to go from a 50% ACOS to a 40% ACOS and to a 30% ACOS and so forth. It requires work and it requires attention to detail.
That's very good, very good. Now, can we briefly touch on how will it look like the journey when somebody will decide to work with you guys? I mean, do they get to choose from in terms of different services, or they get access to a platform? Just give us briefly how the journey looks, so somebody that's hearing this right now or watching, they can understand what they can expect, and what is usually the timeline as well. Because I get those questions a lot. Maybe they want to know if they can get started getting traffic next week, or something that is slowly building up. What is usually the process there? Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's something that we do get asked, and having been around the ecosystem, you start to learn that being able to offer a consistent experience to the consumer and to the client is important, is super important. Where we are right now, and clearly we're not done building. I think Jeff Bezos at Amazon talks about day one. at Amazon because they're not even started with building yet. We think a
Yeah.
lot about being at day zero, where we
Awesome.
have a lot ahead of us as well. But if you were to think of a user coming in and like, hey, I'd love to talk with you guys about what you're offering, we can get someone set up on the platform, and there is a sign up process, and there's a quick API integration that probably takes the customer about maybe 10 minutes at most to go through the
Yeah.
sign up process, and the API integration with Amazon attribution is very straightforward, probably a minute. We've gotten that down to a short timeline. Then the way we are structured today is, we actually pay the advertising cost with Google Ads for you, because by leveraging our ad account, we have
Mm.
larger economies of scale, and we can leverage all the kind of lessons learned and bid modifications and keyword modifiers. So what we have is, you would as part of that 10-minute process, you'd be preloading a credit card with some spend, and then typically it's about 5 business days until
Mm-hmm.
we can set up the different AdWords campaigns. And sometimes a customer might recommend, hey, we really like these keywords, but we're going to look at the product, and our own team is going to analyze as well to make
Okay.
sure, to your point, we're going after the right keywords with the right strategies for the ad campaigns. But we set the ad campaigns up. So from a customer perspective, it's 10 minutes to sign up, and then about 5 business days, we'll have ads live running for your product. And then it's typically, we like to think about a 90-day test, because
Okay.
it just takes time. You want to go through and understand which day of the
Yeah.
week are you getting better conversion rates? What are the keywords that really perform best for this product? And you're optimizing pretty much every 7 to 14 days, another layer of optimizations, another layer. And typically we find within 90 days, if you can dedicate the budget to test, we can achieve a meaningful improvement in ACOS from our starting point.
Interesting. And when it comes to this paid traffic, are you guys mainly working at the moment with Google, or do you also offer integrations with other platforms when it comes to advertisement?
Yeah, that's a key part of where we're building out today. It's very Google and Bing focused. Now we
Okay.
have a number of different proprietary methods of how we work with each, but it's very focused on those two today. And we're just starting to test a third network of traffic, a third search network, and so that will be rolling out in the coming weeks and months. And then I think from there, there's certainly clearly a lot of other traffic sources out
Mhm.
there. What
Yeah.
we want to be real careful with is that we test into making sure we can keep the conversion rate
Yeah.
and the intent of that traffic high, because what we don't want is to get to a place where it's, oh, let's just drive a bunch of clicks,
And
but the
nothing work
clicks
there.
don't
Yeah.
convert. Exactly,
Yeah.
because it ends up being, we might be able to make money over the short term, but that's not going to be a long-term
Yeah.
viable solution.
Awesome. Great. And I love the fact that you guys are doing Bing as well, because I feel Bing is so undervalued. In terms of people assume Google is the predefined browser, but a lot of people, especially people of higher age, they use a lot of Bing because basically Windows come with Bing, and they will never install any other browser, and you can get cheaper clicks and good traffic in there as well. So it's definitely
You're
a
exactly
good
right.
touchstone there.
It's super interesting that you bring that up. I think that a lot, particularly younger internet users, are very dismissive of Bing.
Yeah.
But to your point, it's still got not just older, but guess what? There's a lot of higher income
Mm.
consumers that still use Bing regularly,
Mm.
and in some cases, there's a better conversion rate.
Mm.
So there's a lot of nuance when you're thinking about how you move, and it's work to move a campaign from Google to Bing, and it's a smaller total landscape. But we've found there's value there, and when there's value, we want to try to help our customers take advantage of that.
Very nice. Now, to start concluding, I would also like to briefly touch on basically publications. I know one of your company also does that, just to give some context, because I feel publication is also something people don't think about, and don't even understand the value that you can get out of it, and the authority you can have by putting your brand in front of these publications. So can you briefly also touch what are these publications about, and what is usually the process with that? Yeah.
Yeah, that's really where we cut our teeth was, when we sold Best Reviews, we literally had multiple people who didn't end up purchasing the company, but they were like, hey, can you create some sort of B2B software or service or license some of what you've built to help us at another publication build that commerce and content capability? And
Mm.
so that's a lot of what we've built out at Advon Commerce is how do we help the publications grow their commerce and content revenue streams? And so we've cut our teeth there. And clearly one aspect of that is in certain cases, there might be opportunities to help the publication with paid search strategies, right? Where they drive paid traffic from Google and Bing to their review sites and offwards to Amazon. So you can kind of imagine where we think we can go in the future is thinking a lot about how all these different pieces integrate and where we can start to create really holistic value for brands and manufacturers. I think that's most certainly not where we are today. But if we fast forward into next year and beyond, it's thinking holistically to your point. We do know, to your point, we know that the publications drive billions in sales. We drove over a
Yeah.
billion just at Best Reviews. We
Mm.
know they drive the sales. The challenge points become, when we're thinking about using Amazon attribution and connecting that, what does that look like? Well, we've got
Mm.
a system set up for that, but it's a different ecosystem today
Yeah.
than the ecosystem the publishers generally reside in. So there's an opportunity that you're 100% accurate on. I don't think we'll get there today. I don't think we'll get there tomorrow. However, we're very excited about that possibility of really thinking holistically about different parts of the ecosystem we understand and how we can bring that to bear to create value for our customers, for brands, for manufacturers.
Awesome. Love it. I love it. Yeah, I think this is a very good conclusion point. I mean, we touch a lot of points across the whole attribution, basically space in terms of all the different traffic sources and everything, which I think is going to add a ton of value. And at the same time, we highlighted basically how you guys can help make the whole journey much easier. So I think that was a very good roadmap, the whole thing. So I think just to finalize, is there something else you feel or you want to add in terms of attribution before we start concluding?
There's one big point I think is worth adding, Vincenzo, and that's when you're anyone who's testing attribution, my strong advice is watch very carefully what happens to your Amazon organic position for all
Mm-hmm.
the search terms you currently rank for and new search terms you may not rank for. Because we've seen two different things play out over time, almost without any exceptions. When you're running quality traffic through Amazon attribution to your PDP, one of two things will happen. You'll either see your organic position on Amazon SEO increase relative to where it was before, all other things held constant, or you'll see your PDP rank for terms it hasn't ranked for before. Oftentimes both. And so I would just strongly encourage anyone who's testing it to make sure they're analyzing that aspect, because thinking about your fully loaded return on advertising spend, you want to be thinking about both the direct impact and then we think the indirect impact of, hey, by getting 1,000 quality clicks, 100 of which convert, 10% conversion rate, that's increasing my Amazon organic search position on key, header terms by, one or two positions, perhaps. That's meaningful.
Amazing. Love it. Yeah, I think that's super important. The organic ranking, which at the end of the day, I bet that's the end goal for most people when driving external traffic. So it's very important that you emphasize that. So thank you for that. So that's amazing, Ben. So I think I would also ask you if you can share with us where people can find your companies in terms of getting in touch with your team, even with you, if they want to find out more about it. And so I make also sure to put it down in the description. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, you can find us. I'm on LinkedIn. It's just Ben Fall. I think I'm still the only one. And then you can look up our site. It's literally just maverickx.io. And we're out there. Love to hear from you. And I think what we've learned, which I love, Vincenzo, is when we talk with people, I don't think we've ever had a customer or a potential customer tell us the call was a waste of their time. Every
Mm.
opportunity, we can at least educate people about what we're doing, what's happening. And if it's not a fit for you, that's okay. But I think it's a rare case where there's not often the opportunity for value creation on some level.
Super important. Love it. Great point on that. Yeah, I think it's super important that we don't close our minds. We keep testing new things, and it's all about the untouched potential that sometimes just by testing you can discover that new thing that's gonna move the needle in your business. So very good. Awesome. So thank you, Ben. So it's been a pleasure, and hopefully, I'm gonna make sure to have you in future episodes so we can talk about all these things you are in the making, which I bet they're gonna add a ton of value to the Amazon space. So thank you very much. It's a pleasure. Okay.
Thank you so much, Vincenzo. We're excited to keep building.
Bye. Thank you.